This is Patriots Playbook.
The legend.
Now, here's your host of Patriots Playbook, John Rook.
Boy, you weren't kidding when you said that was fast.
Right into it today.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, glad to be with you. We don't need to listen to the other stuff anyway now, do we? Happy Thanksgiving, everybody, at least on this side of the pond. And if you're on the other side of the pond, happy whatever. Football, still here. Whatever you're celebrating. We're glad that you're with us. Welcome into the Playbook. It is, of course, Thanksgiving Eve here in the States. And we're back in a game week, which, certainly there's nothing wrong with that. There's a lot to celebrate. There's a lot to be thankful for. And I want to get into some of that with you guys today because, frankly, we don't get much of a chance to – we really don't get much of a chance just to shoot the bleep, do we? We're always focused on one thing or another. We're always focused on the next game. We're always focused on, the next quarterback? I mean, we're focused on something. I'm not sure what it is, but we're focused on something here. And I wanted to take a little bit of time today. And we are going to talk football, okay? We are going to talk football. We got Matt Sytak, who covers the Giants for Giants.com, joining us in 10 minutes. Nicole Yang from the Boston Globe, who covers the Patriots as one of their beat writers. She will join us at the bottom of the hour. And, of course, Russell Baxter will join us in hour number 2 for Week 12 around the NFL. And, I'm sure some Thanksgiving week news. And by the way, let's give Evan Lazar at least a little bit of a pat on the back for doing 4 hours of sports talk radio today here on Patriots.com radio. Huh? That is, of course, the sound of one hand clapping. Right? I mean, okay, so he does 4 hours. He does his own Catch-22 pod from 10 to noon, right? And then he does 12 to 2 with PU. And then I walk in the door. He could not get out of here fast enough. He didn't even look at me. He didn't even look at me. He didn't want to say, hey, John, I've just done 4 hours of talk radio. I need to get going. I promised my girlfriend, fiance, significant other, that I'd help her cook. Yeah, right. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving, Ev. All right. So you know what that means? That's more time for you guys. That's more time for you guys. 855-PATS-500 is the toll-free telephone number. 855-PATS 500. And if you don't have time for the phone call, I hope you have time to send me a note. Web radio at patriots.com on email, or hit me up on Twitter, X, whatever the hell we're calling it today. I'll probably call them both. X.com, if that's what we're going with now, because I don't know. Nobody's told me what the etiquette is. Nobody's told me what the protocol is. I mean, I realize I'm behind.
The glory of America.
Yeah, I know, right? Elon's thing, okay? I mean, we can call it that. If you want to get me on Elon's thing, it's at JR Broadcaster. Pretty simple. And always, as always, thank you for the follows. I do like to interact, on the social app formerly known as Twitter. Can we call it that? I think I'm going to call it that, just like Prince, when he was that stupid symbol thing, and then we called him the artist formerly known as Prince. It's the social app formerly known as Twitter. Seriously. But I do like to converse quite a bit on that one. So, whether it's, through regular tweets or DMs, slide me a DM, something like that, however the saying goes. I feel like those dorks on the commercial or the, for the, what is it, the insurance? Or because you have to teach young homeowners how to be like their parents or something. You know that one? What?
And I cut streaming off. I'm a streamer. I cut the cable cord in 2015.
I get it on stream too. I get these ads all the time. I've just forgotten what brand of insurance it is.
Here's the hard-o thing of the day for you. I'm bougie. I pay for the ad-free service.
Come on, really? You pay? How much more a month do you pay for the ad-free?
Probably $5 each for each app.
Okay. So here's the shocker for you. Do you know what I pay for a year of streaming? Because I cut my cord, too, a long time ago. What would you think that I would pay for a year of streaming?
Without the internet, probably $50. $50 to $70.
A year?
Yeah.
Or a month?
I'm without cable. I'm paying less than $200 for all my streaming services plus the $100 internet.
Okay. So wait a second. So what are you doing for your streaming service? You're paying $200 a year for your streaming?
No, if you're adding, I pay for good internet,
Okay.
and then all the individual.
So what is
streaming
all right? So let me break this down now. So what are you paying for good internet? Do you mind my asking?
It's about $100 a month.
A month? Okay, that's what I pay. I have gig speed at home. I wanted that because I have to work so much at home, right? And so I pay. I think my price is $93 a month. All right. But I know people who are, they've cut the cord and they're doing like YouTube TV, or they're doing Hulu, or they're doing Fubo. And I had Fubo once upon a time. I dumped my DirecTV. I had DirecTV for like 15 years. And I finally dumped it because I was getting, PO'd at the channels that they were arbitrarily showing and then cutting off and then showing and then cutting, because of all the contract things that were not being renewed or then renewed too late. And I couldn't wait for it because I didn't want to miss a game or a show or whatever. So I said, screw it. I'm going to go to streaming, right? Okay, so I found an IPTV service. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, Google it. You'll find out. I pay $8 a month. Yeah. Right? So when you add that to my, internet cost for everything I do, I'm paying roughly $100 a month for everything, and that includes not only the Wi-Fi in my home, but also the television that I watch.
Yeah, you got me beat on that.
And I have, get this now, I have access to up to 70,000 channels. I can't even watch 7, much less 70,000. But it's a service that I stumbled upon. If you're curious to know what it is, I don't get any kickback from these guys. Slide me a DM in my mentions, slide me a mention, and I'll share it with you. But I'm just like, I don't see any reason to go back. Now, I do from time to time have an issue with the circle of death. Okay, when it buffers. And a lot of that is because, from what I've been told, it really doesn't have it. It's two reasons. Number one, my local provider for Wi-Fi, sometimes, they say they don't, but you wrong. They downcycle. They absolutely downcycle. Okay? And so sometimes you don't get what you're paying for. Because I've called my, provider multiple times and had multiple visits, and the guys are like, well, let's change out your box. I said, that's not the issue, okay? The issue is that during the time, you can almost count it, you can almost set your clock by it. 9 o'clock Eastern time, boom, there's a down cycle. Because they anticipate now that less people are going to be online. But they don't realize that more and more people are streaming now. So it infuriates the hell out of me. Ask Miss Robin, she'll tell you. I'm the one that's going, God, bleep, blah, 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 blah. Letting it fly. And she's like, shh, the neighbors will hear you. I'm like, I don't care. I want the neighbors to hear this. Brand X, I won't say their name, blows, at the top of my lungs, because I know that they're downcycling because it's just it's an industry practice. And don't tell me it's not. It is. I know your dirty little secrets. I worked in cable TV for a long time. I know your secrets. You can't pull that one over me. You just can't. You can't. So at any rate, be that as it may, I'm glad to have, the streaming. I do put up with the circle of death from time to time. I try to, and with the IPTV services that aren't quite regulated here, it's a little different. If you pay for the extra service, like, if you subscribe to Fubo, which I actually think was a pretty good service. I never had any issues with Fubo, but when they dumped the Longhorn Network, I was off. Because I wanted to watch, the 2 or 3 games that I can watch a year, and the coaches' shows. I like that. I like to keep up with the alma mater. Ask Strippers, he'll tell you. And then I thought about YouTube TV, but at first they didn't offer Nesson. And I wasn't going to give up the New England Sports Network because they carry the Red Sox exclusively, right? Now both services, ironically, count on they both carry Nesson. And I don't know yet about Fubo, but Fubo I think actually put the Longhorn Network back on there, which is going to end up merging in another year or so with the SEC network because Texas is going to the SEC. So I don't know how they're going to specifically do it, but I don't really care as long as I get the Texas content that I allegedly am paying for. It doesn't matter, and that's really what it is. Fubo I think has been pretty good, and again I don't get paid by these guys. I haven't tried YouTube TV, although I've threatened to. I haven't tried Hulu, although I've threatened to. So I'm just going to stick with what I got, and we'll see how it goes. Because did I say I have 70,000 channels?
You can watch Steve Urkel in every language.
Do you know what I do watch in almost every language? All in the Family. Do you remember? You're too young for that. But
I would hear Archie yell in Spanish. That'd be funny.
Okay. Well, we're talking about Archie and Edith Bunker, All in the Family, the hit 70s sitcom that today would not be legal in this country because of their political incorrectness. But it is still the most hilarious sitcom all time in television history. And if you're of an age where you don't know what I'm talking about, do yourself a favor, go YouTube it, go Google it. Go find it somewhere on your service that you can get, and tell me that you don't laugh until you cry. It's the most amazing. It's one of the most amazing television shows, sitcoms that has ever been, ever graced the planet Earth. And so they actually have a channel on my IPTV service. They actually have a channel that does nothing but show classic television 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They have a stream that has that, right? And so what do Miss Robin and I do? We watch All in the Family. How many of you, show of hands here, how many of you have actually tried to go find 704 Hauser Street in Queens? I've done that. Doesn't look anything like, the house that Archie and Edith were in. But on the opening scene, the opening credits there, the house that they show, 704, does exist. It's there. I've seen that house, been to it. And it's amazing. Taking pictures out in front of it, and I'm sure the owners of that house are absolutely driven nuts by it. The house that is supposed to be 704 Hauser Street.
Is that a disappointment?
That's not really the address.
Wasn't like the show was a disappointment?
Well, I expected to see different because, in the sitcom, Archie and Edith had a front porch. This house has no front porch. Has a flagpole out front, and that's the house that they show in the opening scene of credits on the film that they shoot. Right, that house has a specific address. You can Google it and find it out, and everybody calls it the Archie Bunker house because that's in the opening credits. I've gone by that house. I've seen it, taken my picture out in front of it. Probably irritated the bleep out of the owners of that house, but I'm sure they're used to it by now after all these years because this was a hit sitcom 50 years ago. And speaking of anniversaries, before we get to Matt Sitek, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention today is the 60th anniversary of the assassination of JFK. And for those that are listening to this show abroad, you undoubtedly are at least aware of a smidge of United States American history when he was assassinated, allegedly by one person and 3 bullets. I'm a huge, huge conspiracy theorist. You cannot tell me, based on everything that I have seen, heard, read, watched, you cannot tell me that one person and one person alone did that to the President of the United States. You can't tell me that. I retweeted that earlier today. You can check my feed, but I retweeted earlier today. And I don't know if this was a fake or what, but there was a tweet sent out, and the account said @CIA. Central Intelligence Agency. And so, because it was a screenshot, so I don't know if it's the real thing or not, but this was from back in 2020. So this would have been 3 years ago, on this anniversary date 3 years ago, which would have been the 57th anniversary. And the tweet said, and I'm going to paraphrase, you'd have to go back and look at it on my feed here, but the tweet basically said, just because we killed him doesn't mean we missed him. I know, that brought a chuckle in sort of a morbid sense for me. But at the same time, I actually believe the CIA had a lot to do with that. I think they had a lot to do with it because I think it was almost they threw a bone to the Soviet Union and or communist Cuba at the time. That's kind of what I think. So at any rate, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that, but I don't really want to deal with morbidity today either. I've got to talk football about the Patriots and Giants, and that's morbid enough. Don't you think? 855-PATS-500. There is a football game to be played. Matthew Sitek, who covers the Giants for Giants.com, kind enough to join us here in the Playbook. And Matthew, I know you've got, you're trying to work around Giants practice today, so I appreciate the time.
No problem. Thanks for having me on, guys.
So let's kind of just start with where you guys are at this stage of the game. You won a football game last week, played well enough, certainly. And it's just kind of ironic that two teams two franchises that once upon a time in the not too far past were playing each other for Super Bowls. And now, as it turns out, the winner of this game probably ends up screwing itself more than the loser of this game because they'll be that much further away from the number one draft pick this next April. Has that hit anybody's consciousness in New York?
I mean, when the schedule first came out, definitely was excited about this matchup. Did not think heading into Week 12 that either one of these teams would be where we are today.
Right.
But, we are where we are, and the Giants are coming out and trying to put their best football together. I mean, last week's game against Washington was probably the best overall performance the team has put together from start to finish in 2023. And the Giants are looking to ride that momentum into this week's matchup and put together a 2-game winning streak. I mean, the future is the future. Talk about draft position all you want, but right now, Giants are focused on winning a football game. And it's going to come out on Sunday, best lineup out there, and put their best football out there and try to pick up the W.
You guys talked about this, I think, on the website, and I think it's actually 100% accurate. But right now, one of the best stories going in the NFL happens to be Tommy DeVito. Here's a guy that, my gosh, he's, the story is well documented, but for those in our audience that don't know, he lived with his parents and still does live with his parents just 15 minutes from the team's facility. So you're talking about really local boy making good. This is the epitome of that. Nobody knows who this guy is, and yet he led your team to a win last week. So I'm just kind of curious what your thoughts are of Tommy DeVito.
Yeah, well, as a local New Jersey boy myself, I have to say I'm very proud to see what Tommy has done. His performance last week against the Commanders was, honestly, it was historical in some sense. I mean, he threw for 246 yards, 3 touchdowns, no interceptions. He finished with a 137.7 passer rating, which was the highest of any Giants quarterback in about a year, first of all. More impressively, the highest of any rookie free agent quarterback since 1967.
That's crazy.
I mean, what he went out there and did against the Commanders last week, it truly was unprecedented. And, there have been a lot of jokes from the national media at his expense about the whole living at home thing and, chicken cutlets, all of that. But honestly, he's leaned into his New Jersey pride, and as someone from New Jersey myself, I love to see it.
I love chicken cutlets too, so it's,
who doesn't?
Yeah, right. It's one of those comfort foods that's there all the time. The number I think that impressed me the most out of all of this, Matthew, is the fact that and you guys had this, which I would expect Giants.com to have, but he's the first Giant quarterback since 1950 with 5 touchdown passes or more in his first 2 NFL starts. That's significant. That's very significant since, believe it or not, a couple of these quarterbacks that you've had in the past were really, really pretty good.
Yeah, 100%. And, you mentioned Giants history. He's only the 4th rookie quarterback to ever do that in the NFL's history. So what he's been doing, I mean, obviously undrafted rookie free agent, a lot of people's expectations for him around the league, around the country's fans, were probably not that high, but I think he's exceeded those expectations so far. And personally, I'm very excited to see what he can do against a talented Patriots defense.
Well, and I'm sure that it'll be quite the test, but the other thing that amazed me most is when you try to look between the numbers, what DeVito has done for you guys. I noticed last week against Washington, he was 7 for 8 on 3rd down. And through his 2 touchdown passes, through 2 of his touchdown passes on 3rd down. And the Patriots have struggled. I'll use the Joe Namath, enunciation on that one. Struggled on 3rd down. And so that, to me, ought to catch anybody's attention.
Yeah, I mean, his complete stats on 3rd down, I was going to mention, 7 for 8, 113 yards, 2 touchdowns. Of course, he had no turnovers on the day, so no interceptions. And all of that resulted in a perfect 158.3 passer rating.
Which is nuts. That's nuts. What does he do particularly well to the naked eye that you can tell? And what have you guys talked about, where his improvement has come from? What does he do that has made him, that kind of special to this point?
I mean, honestly, Coach Dable has spoken about this Tommy he has confidence. He has confidence in himself. He doesn't care that he was not drafted. He doesn't care that he started the season on the practice squad. He truly believes that he belongs in the NFL, and you can see it every time he goes out there on the field. I mean, his teammates have spoken about how since he's been named the starting quarterback, he's commanded the huddle. He's the leader, one of the leaders of the offense now. All the players around him listen to him, respect him. Now, as great as he was last week, of course, it was not a perfect outing by any means. He got sacked 9 times, and as Coach Dable said after the win, it wasn't all on the offensive line.
Right.
So he does have some things he needs to clean up, but you have an undrafted rookie 25-year-old quarterback that is going out there believing in himself and his abilities, and, you love to see it. The results are showing.
Sure. Well, let's jump over to Coach Dable since you mentioned it, because clearly our fans know that there's a huge history between Brian Dable and Bill Belichick in the past. And, it has been largely, I think, a disappointing year, not only for the Patriots but for the Giants as well. How much is Brian Dable, how much heat has he absorbed? Is it rightful or is it wrong? Like some think it's wrong to accuse Bill Belichick of where the Patriots are currently standing. What are your thoughts there?
I mean, look, Coach Dable, he accepts responsibility for the team's performance. I mean, he's the first one to say it whenever he is asked that question. As a third-party observer, I mean, of course, the Giants have been dealt with a ton of injuries, and you never want to hang that as an excuse for a record, but the offense itself has been decimated by injuries since week 1. I mean, Andrew Thomas, the all-pro left tackle, got hurt on the first drive of week 1, went on to miss the next 8 games, is back now, but by the time he came back, I mean, the Giants' record was what it was at that point, and, already down to their third-string quarterback. So I personally don't think that Coach Dable deserves possibly as much heat as some people are trying to put on him. He's kept the locker room together. The team is still going out there and fighting from the first minute to the final minute of every single game. One thing about this Giants team under Brian Dable is they are never going to quit. And honestly, that's all you can ask for from a team in a season like this.
Sure. Sounds almost cliche-ish, but frankly, these guys, hey, they're professionals. You would expect pros to try to act like pros, right?
100%. And Coach Dable and the whole coaching staff has seemingly gotten that out of the entire roster.
Right. Before I lose sight of the offense, how's Daniel Jones and what the prognosis for, his return next year?
Well, we announced a couple hours ago that he underwent successful surgery, the hospital for special surgery on his torn ACL, and he's on the road to recovery now.
Okay, and so it's full expectation that he will be able to return when? Next summer, or will we be into the fall? Do you know yet?
That I cannot say. Don't know. I'm not sure. I think right now all Daniel is concerned about is rehabbing, getting back to where he can play football, play the quarterback position without any hesitations, without any limitations. Right now, he's just focused on his recovery.
Okay. Let's then flip it for a second then to the defensive side. What's been the biggest surprise here at this stage of the game, to your point of view, in moving toward the positive and moving toward the future for this Giants team? Has anybody broken out that maybe wasn't expected to?
There have been 2 players in particular that I believe truly have broken out. I wouldn't necessarily say that they were the most, under-the-radar players, but breakout players nonetheless. First, of course, Kayvon Thibodeau. I mean, going into week 12, he's got 10.5 sacks. He's the first player in a Wink Martindale-led defense to reach double-digit sacks, and it's only 11 games in, so he can add to that total. He has been a game wrecker, especially over the last, I would say, two months, the last 7 or 8 games. He's really just been a force in the pass rush. And the second player is linebacker Bobby Okereke, who was one of the team's big offseason additions, signed him in free agency. He has been a true anchor in the middle of the defense. I mean, he has, I believe it's 6 games with double-digit tackles this season. He's tied for 5th in the league in tackles. He's got an interception. He's been one of the best coverage linebackers this season, 4 forced fumbles. career highs in tackles for loss. Again, they signed him to a decent contract in the offseason, so I'm not going to go ahead and say that he's, under the radar. But in terms of, the national spotlight, I do think he's one of the more underrated players in the NFL, and he's really been showing it this year.
Yeah. Let me go back to Thibodeau for a second, because I think that's the name that's kind of catching the attention of at least most fans overall. What are his particular traits that you really find might set him apart from others? I mean, is it quickness? Is it strength? Is it a combination of the two? Because when you're a speed rusher, when you're an end rusher, and your job is to get after the quarterback, you've got to have some unusual athleticism to be able to do your job at the highest level possible.
Yeah, so I would say the first thing that really stands out is his get-off speed. I mean, we saw it this past week against the Commanders. He was matched up against their left tackle, Charles Leno, who's very solid veteran tackle, been around the league for a decade now, and Thibodeau just dominated him. They had 33 one-on-one matchups, and Kayvon had 2 sacks and 8 pressures, according to Next Gen Stats. More impressively, though, is he had his quickest get-off speed in any game this season, which Next Gen Stats had 0.68 seconds, and 5 of those 8 pressures I just mentioned came in under 2.5 seconds. So he showed that he's able to get to the quarterback and get to the quarterback very, very quickly.
Yeah, it's getting after.
The second thing I would just point out is his motor. I mean, he is giving it his all from the first snap of the game until the last snap of the game, which, of course, is something you would expect from every player. But in a season, how the Giants season has gone, you may not see that from, every single player from teams across the league. But every time Kayvon steps out there, if it's a pass rush, he's going out there with the mindset of, I'm getting after the quarterback, I'm going to get to him as quick as possible, and you see it out there.
Sure. And caught my attention as well, not only the margin of victory, over, the Commanders, but 6 takeaways. And that's something that the Patriots defense clearly, while they may be better physically, they haven't forced turnovers even like last year's team did. And I think that's been a huge reason to why New England is only 2-8, because the defense just hasn't turned the other team over. Your defense did just that and won going away last week. Yeah.
I mean, the 6 takeaways total, 5 were from the defense, 1 did come on special teams, but that was season high for takeaways, both by the defense and by the team overall. 3 of those were interceptions, great plays. I mean, the one that really caught everyone's attention was Isaiah Simmons, the interception return for a touchdown at the very end of the game. But if you were to go back and look at the film, Darnay Holmes, his interception, he mossed. He literally jumped over the receiver, pulled down the interception. It was a very, very impressive play. And then there were 3 forced fumbles. Bobby Okereke, again, he punched the ball out twice in the game. Giants recovered 1. But you could just tell in, last week's game in particular that the defense made a real concerted effort to punch at the ball, to get the ball out of the ball carrier's hand. And they were successful. They forced 4 fumbles and recovered 3 of them.
And that's something the Patriots have not defended well against over the last few weeks.
Yeah. So, the Giants defense went the first 4 weeks of the season without a turnover, and since then have had multiple turnovers in every game except 2. So the defense, after that first month, really seemed to, flip a page and get back to, what Wink Martindale is best at.
Sure. All right. And the final one I have for you, Matt, and frankly, I'm surprised that, I've gone all the way to the final question here before, talking about probably the most well-known of all the Giants, and that's Saquon Barkley. But I thought his game, even though he's sort of, he's been off and on with his injuries really throughout his entire career, I thought he had enough of an influence last week to sort of assure the Giants of being better than the Commanders, and that's all you have to do from week to week is just worry about that particular game. And I thought that he, what did he have, like 4 catches and 80-some-odd yards last week against Washington? So catching the ball out of the backfield adds a dimension to his game.
Yeah, I mean, he caught 4 passes and totaled 57 yards.
57 yards, yeah. I confused him with Slayton. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no problem. His 57 yards was his personal season high. He caught 2 receiving touchdowns, which matched his season total in the receiving game up to that point.
Right.
So you're right. He was a huge asset in the passing game, which is something we have seen from Saquon since he arrived with the Giants back in 2018. The thing that impressed me even more than that, though, was the Giants got the ball back with about 40 seconds left in the third quarter. At that point, Saquon had -2 rushing yards. Over his next 8 carries, he gained 85 yards. I mean, that is the reason why the Giants were really able to seal that victory, because Saquon, despite not having much success at all the first pretty much 3 quarters, kicked it into high gear when the Giants needed it most, averaged over 10 yards a carry on those last 8 carries, finished with 83 yards on the day, which is pretty remarkable, saying he almost finished the third quarter with negative yards.
Yeah. Okay. Well, at least to me, I know that, because I have a lot of Giants fans that I consider in my circle of friends, and a lot of that is because, here in New England, their dads and their granddads were Giants fans before the Patriots ever existed, and it's just kind of stayed within the family. So I do follow the Giants, at least from a distance a little bit, and I know that there's largely been a lot of disappointment over a team that was expected to be better certainly than 3-8, but maybe even certainly a contender in the NFC East, with the NFC East thought of it being like the AFC East, one of the better divisions in the NFL, and I'm not sure that's quite turned out the way that people thought it would have turned out, but it's interesting to see now that the Giants are playing better football with guys that they really didn't expect it from, and that's why I kind of began the conversation with a guy like DeVito.
Yeah, I mean, look, the season definitely did not go how anyone here would have hoped, or I guess would have even thought, but the season, it is what it is at this point, and from this point on, all you want to see is your players, especially a lot of the young guys, continuing to develop and show promise as you head into the end of the season and going into the future.
Right.
So, Tommy, especially him playing like he did last week, and some of the other young guys on both sides of the ball really stepping up. That's the sort of thing you want to see over these next 7 games.
All right. Matthew, thank you very much for the time today. Happy Thanksgiving to you and to yours, and we'll look forward to visiting again on down the line.
All right. Thank you, guys. Happy Thanksgiving to you.
You got it. Same to you. That's Matthew Sitek, who covers the Giants for Giants.com, taking some time out of his Thanksgiving Eve to join us here inside the Patriots Playbook. We're going to switch from the Giants and go right into the Patriots. Nicole Yang, who covers the Patriots for the Boston Globe. She's been a contributor here inside the Playbook on several occasions already this year, and Nicole takes a few minutes of her time today to join us. Thanks, Nicole. Appreciate you.
Thanks for having me, John.
Sure. So, you probably caught at least the tail end of that, but I mean, it's really kind of odd how, the Patriots and Giants, as I mentioned earlier, it's odd that here's 2 teams that have met each other for world championships in the past, and yet now the winner of this game on Sunday is actually in worse shape than the loser when it comes to getting a higher draft pick next April. And that ironic nature to this game on Sunday is it just I couldn't let it go, right? Because, frankly, it defies description almost.
Yeah, it's definitely no Super Bowl matchup or anything close to that. But what's interesting is that it's not necessarily a full tank off either, because the Patriots, I think, still want to win this game, even though it might defy what is best for the organization at this point. I think they still are going to be putting forth their best effort to win. And I would like to say the same is for the Giants, just given how their season has gone as well. I don't think either team is going to be tanking per se, even if that might be best for both.
Yeah. No, I don't believe in tanking. And we've talked about that on this show a lot of times before. Tanking is a concoction of fandom. And I think you can go back to the original tank that at least I was familiar with. We're talking mid-1980s when the Houston Rockets and the NBA were trying to tank to get Akeem Olajuwon. And I said, that's one of the most ridiculous things I've ever seen. And then I got it confirmed, I remember, by the Houston Rockets play-by-play announcer at the time. He said, "Yep, these guys have told me they have no intention of winning another game this year." And that's the only time I've ever heard that. And of course, all those guys got ridden out of town on a cord of wood too.
I think you definitely see it more in the NBA, like most recently with the Philadelphia 76ers, but it just the way that the Patriots are operating, the way that the players and Bill Belichick are talking about the game, like they definitely want to win as many games as they can in these final 7.
I mean, if you're a professional, I mean, I know that, as a broadcaster, you as a journalist as well, when you see other people write well and you see other people report well, we applaud them, and because, there's talent, to go around here. But when it happens on your beat and someone beats you to a story, I don't know about you, but it makes me want to get up and work a little bit harder. And I don't think anybody that gets wrapped in the mouth and gets beat up on a football field or a sheet of ice or a basketball court or wherever the venue might be, who gets whipped up on, I don't think anybody's going to just take that laying down and say, oh, well, we'll get a better draft choice. That does not exist in the real world.
Yeah, for sure, especially for the free agents, and the Patriots have plenty of them with their contracts expiring at the end of this season.
Right.
It doesn't matter to them what draft position the Patriots get. Like, they want to put forth, like, their best tape to try and get another deal, to try and get the most lucrative deal they can.
No question.
I'm sure Robert Kraft wants the team to do well so that the Patriots still remain, like, a desirable destination or a desirable team to put in prime time and things like that. So there's a lot of reasons for why the organization top to down still wants to win.
That's a great point right there, and I think that's one that's largely missed by most fans, is the fact, look, okay, so you want them to lose and get a top draft pick. Great. Did anybody ever stop and think that the more you lose, the less desirable your location becomes as a destination? I mean,
right.
That blows me away. I don't want to go to the Patriots. They sucked last year. And that's what people are going to think, because it's always about what you've done for me lately.
Exactly. And now you have the NFL Players Association survey that sort of reveals what players think about their teams and things like that. So there's a lot of factors at play in terms of why the Patriots will still want to preserve as much of this winning culture. Like, they're hanging on to last threads here, but
yeah, of course,
just to preserve whatever they can of the brand.
Okay, well, you kind of opened up a whole nother hornet's nest with that one, Nicole, so I got to follow up on it a little bit here. Hanging on to a thread or a shred of winning culture, should that still include Bill Belichick?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I think the problem with, if you're interested in parting ways with Bill Belichick, is how far do the departures go? Because you look at the Patriots coaching staff and even their personnel department, I would say the vast majority, if not every guy, has a personal connection to Bill Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
You look at the coaches, Adrian Clem, his first draft pick with the Patriots, Troy Brown, his player of 15 years, Gerard Mayo, his player of 8 years, Mike Pellegrino, who played lacrosse for his good friend Dave Pietramala at Johns Hopkins, Vinny Sunseri, his brief player, but played special teams for Nick Saban at Alabama. Like, every coach, every assistant has a tie to Bill. And so if you get rid of Bill Belichick, are you gutting the rest of the coaching staff? If you promote Gerard Mayo, say, is Gerard going to retain the rest of the staff? And we haven't even mentioned his two sons yet either. So it's a really interesting question. I get the frustration, and I could totally see why why fans might think that moving on is the right decision. I just think it's a lot more complicated than, all right, we're going to fire or trade or part ways with Bill, because he's everywhere within that coaching staff and personnel. Matt Groh, his dad is Al Groh, who works for Bill too. So it's like, there's just so many ties to Belichick that it wouldn't shock me if he stays and they move on from the quarterback. And they're like, okay, clearly Mac Jones was not the future. There are a lot of good quarterback prospects in this draft. What if we reset with that one and see how it goes?
Right.
Robert Kraft is 82 years old. I don't know how long of a rebuild or how long he wants to wait before the team can sort of turn its way around.
Sure. Yeah, I'm 100% on that one. All right, so you mentioned Mac Jones, and you wrote about this a week or 10 days ago, that the Patriots don't believe in Mac Jones in your particular estimation. Otherwise, they might not have made that move to get him out of the game and put in Bailey Zappi 2 weeks ago when they were playing in Germany. Now, of course, the Patriots are keeping their cards relatively close to the vest in terms of naming a starter for this week's game against the Giants. My personal belief, just based on reading some tea leaves, is that Mac is going to start this game. That's my personal belief. What do you think they should do? What's your belief in that regard?
I agree with you. I think Mac is going to start again this weekend. I think there are still 7 games left, which, if you can believe it,
right,
that's still a lot of the season left.
It is.
And so as perplexing as the decision was to go away from Mac at the end of that game, I know the interception was bad, but the game is on the line, and you're going to put a winning 2-minute drive in the hands of Bailey Zappi, who you also have shown you have no faith in. You subjected him to waivers. You benched him in favor of Malik Cunningham one week. So I just think the situation the Patriots have put themselves in just is reflective of the mismanagement at this position. So I think they're going to start Mac. I agree with that decision just based on how bad the backup has been as well.
Right.
If they had a competent veteran as a backup, then I could totally see why a change at quarterback could provide a spark, could sort of benefit the offense, even just a change in the energy. But just given the options, I understand why they would move forward with Mac.
Yeah, and look, I actually, I'm right. I'm in lockstep with you on this one, only because if it were a veteran backup that had some experience, let's say Brian Hoyer, I would buy that one more than I would the rookies that they have now, because frankly, Mac is their best option if they decide to keep him, and they can, with relatively short money, keep him as a bridge option to the next guy, even if they go out and they draft somebody next year. And he's their best chance to do that, especially if you're interested in, watching your funds come out of the pocketbook. So why would you damage him any further if you realize deep down that, hey, we got to hold on to this guy for at least another year? Maybe even 2, but at least another year. And I frankly think that that's what will end up transpiring. Now, are the Patriots guilty of mismanagement? Yeah, 110%. The way that they've gone about, drafting and deciding what the importance is on their roster and everything else. And I think they've made some very poor decisions that will need to be addressed, every one of these issues, in the offseason. I don't think that this is a one-season fix or one off-season fix. I think the frustrating part about this, and it will be and will continue to be for a lot of fans, is that this is going to take probably more than 1 year. You can take a big bite out of it because of the cap room and the extra cap space you should have for next year, but there's no guarantee. There is no guarantee that free agents are going to look at that and say, oh, well, let's go to New England, because, hey, guys only know what they know now, what they know today, and New England hasn't been competitive really in the last couple of years, and I think that's a significant factor.
No, I totally agree with you. And I think if you move on from Mac this weekend, you basically are benching him for the rest of the year. I don't think you can start Bailey Zappi this weekend, and then if that fails, go back to Mac. That is, again, just like personnel mismanagement. So I see why they would want to keep him, because like you said, he's still under contract for a rookie deal next year. I doubt we'll see what happens with the 5th-year option, but even keeping him in the fold, whether it's as a backup or a bridge next year, you want to sort of preserve that option.
Sure.
As long as
Sure. All right, Nicole, here's a good one for you. Toss-up question, right? Who has a better chance of being here next year, Bill or Mac?
That's an interesting question. I would have to say Mac, just because of that rookie contract. I don't think he's the quarterback of the future. I think perhaps he still has an NFL future as a starter, but just elsewhere. It just clearly isn't working here. And you can debate whose fault that is. And definitely the Patriots are culpable, but it's just where we are now with that situation. I can't imagine it lasting much longer.
Right.
But I can see it lasting at least one more season, just because he is on that rookie contract. He's affordable. And if they're already going to bring in a new quarterback, I can't imagine. I mean, they do have a lot of cap space, but I imagine they just want to keep Mac in the fold sort of as that strong backup option that they probably wish they had this year.
Agreed. All right, so where have the bright spots been in your estimation? I know what was it, a week or so ago? I know you did a nice piece on David Andrews and him trying to keep the ship together, especially in an offensive line that's been largely disastrous all season long. And in my opinion, a major reason that Mac has not progressed and perhaps regressed in his development here. But where have some of the other bright spots really come from in this team, if you can find them?
Yeah, I think Jabril Peppers has stepped up into a nice leadership role. He's having a pretty good season. He's had a hand in a number. The Patriots haven't had many takeaways this year, but he's had a hand in the majority of them. Same goes for Jelani Tavai. I think the Patriots have a chance to make the running game a bright spot. It seems to be trending in the right direction after sort of struggling to start the season because of the offensive line. It does seem like run blocking has sort of come together a bit more quickly than the pass protection has. And here's Zeke after the game last week. He says that, that's what the offense should focus on. So I would expect this weekend, especially given the fact that the Giants are statistically one of the worst teams against the run, that the Patriots just sort of lean into that. And you kind of saw them do that last week. Mac just sort of derailed the drives with some rough mistakes, but they really started to pound the run game. So I think that has the potential to be their offensive identity moving forward and a bright spot, because I would say Ramondre and Zeke are probably their two most talented skill position players on offense.
Yep, I think we're on the same page on that one as well. Nicole, thank you so much for spending some time with us today. Hope you and your family have a very happy Thanksgiving and safe travels the rest of the season.
Likewise, John. Thanks so much for having me.
You bet. Our pleasure. Nicole Yang, at Nicole C. Yang, all one word together for her on X.com, formerly known as Twitter. And that's where you can read her stuff and catch up with Nicole. And I think she's done a really good job of reporting the news on this team throughout the entire year for the Boston Globe. So if you're looking for someone to try to give you a little bit of unbiased opinion, she's one of those that, frankly, I think is worth the read. There are a few in the marketplace. Maybe we'll spend a show one of these upcoming weeks, because we have 7 weeks left in the regular season, and certainly in the off-season when we do our monthly off-season shows here in the Playbook. We just may decide to vote and talk about who are your favorite reporters and why, and then we're going to get them here on the show. We've done this before with those of you who host podcasts, on Patriots Pods out there in the blogosphere, and that's been a lot of fun. We'll do that again in the off season coming up. In fact, had we had a show last week, I was leaning toward doing that one, but it was the off week, and we had travel and all that stuff, so we didn't really get a chance to think about that much this time around. But that'll definitely be an off-season project for us to get to, because I'd like to know who you guys trust. I'd like to know who you guys read. I'd like to know who you guys listen to. Who do you believe? Who's believable? And why are they believable? And that includes us, by the way, okay? Because I realize that, for many of you, we might be one of the few sources that you get to, for Patriots news, because wherever you might live, you probably don't get, the news like, New Englanders would get. And so Patriots.com is naturally going to be the spot that you go to. But nowadays, it's not hard to stay connected with your favorite teams no matter where you are, just because of the internet. But I'd like to know, is there anybody else on a regional or national level that you really go to for those for that kind of information? All right, so we're going to make sure that that the phone lines are open, 855-PATS-500. But I have some pointed questions that I want to ask you today. We've got some time here. Russell's going to join us at the bottom of the next hour. So we've got some time here to play with you guys and talk with you guys, and I want to get your reaction to a couple of key things. Number one, I would like to know the question that I asked Nicole from you, and that would be, who's going to be here this time next year, Mac or Bill? And tell me why. Okay, that's one, Mac or Bill, and why this time next year. Number two, and guys, this is, in all honesty, I've tried to, think long and hard about this, because I want to do something that, feels like we're starting to build for tomorrow, and yet, gosh, there's 7 weeks left in the season. Does anybody realize that, we look completely differently on this team, on this franchise, if somehow they win 5, 6, 7 out of the next 7. Now, do I think that'll happen? No. Yeah, it's probably the longest of long shots. Marine says it's definitely a long shot. But it's not impossible when you consider the records and you consider the opponents that are on the schedule. Now, I would have told you it would have had to probably start 2 weeks ago with Indianapolis in Germany because that game was right there for the taking. I think we all saw it, and the Patriots just could never take advantage of it. It was really it's hard for me to use this word, but I'm going to use it anyway. It was a pathetic offensive performance. But pathetic also means it sort of intones that, there was some, lackadaisical play. I don't think that was the case at all. I think guys were trying. They're just not capable. And I don't know if it's because of Mac Jones. I don't know if it's because of Bill O'Brien. I don't know if it's because of the offensive line. I don't know if the offensive line screw-ups have, made give Mac the yips. I don't know. It could be a combination. Frankly, I think it's probably a little bit of everything, to be quite honest with you. I think it's a little bit of everything. It's not just one thing that is causing this team to play at a miserable level that no one around here has been used to or seen really since 1990. 1990 is the last time you got to go back to a team that started out like this. I know this because I did Rod Rust's TV show. I've said that a couple of times, I think, this year. It was so bad, we couldn't do a show every week. So we did one once a month. Nuts. Absolutely nuts. I want to know what's the one positive take that you have thus far from the first 10, 11 weeks of the season. So while I'm asking you, Mac or Bill, who's going to be here this time next year in your estimation, and I know that's got a negative overtone to it, I also want to know what you feel like is the most positive thing that you can come up with to this point in time. I don't care what the answer is. Oh, they can lose, then they get the top trip. Okay, whatever. I don't care. That's fine. I'm good with either one. But these are two things that I want you to consider both for yourself. So we're going to talk a negative. We are, because that's the prevalent feeling right now around this franchise, but we're also going to talk a positive. What else what do you see out there that is in a positive nature that you'd like to see continue, you'd like to see more growth, like to see more of? There's got to be a positive aspect to this out there for you. And honestly, Nicole mentioned my positive aspect. I have loved the play of Jabril Peppers. And while he's not perfect, he brings a mindset to the football field that this team needs more of. He's got that Rodney Harrison mindset where he literally wants to blast the next guy into oblivion. And I think we need more like that on this team. So I'll take 11 Jabril Peppers. I'll take 11 of him out there. Thank you very much. That's a positive thing for me. What's one for you? 855-PATS-500, web radio at patriots.com if you want to email, or if you can't get through, at JR Broadcaster on X. Okay, so you can hit me up there with your answer on that one. And then the other one that I am going to deal with Russell, and it has something to do with the holiday because I just want to have a little fun today. But, I know everybody's got their favorite things for Thanksgiving dinner. What's one must-have on your table? And what's one thing you'd like to throw in the trash? Okay? Maureen, what's one thing you have to have on your Thanksgiving table tomorrow?
A lasagna, and I will be making it tonight.
Nice. Good for you. Thanksgiving lasagna. I did that one year. I didn't do the turkey. I did it one year when we were in New York. And we went out for Italian on Thanksgiving, and I had lasagna, and it was fantastic. So for a change of pace, it was awesome.
I spent $300 at Vendor Ravioli for the ingredients.
Whoa, dude. Seriously.
Bought the $30 pound prosciutto.
Good Lord. They're paying you too much here.
That's my treat yourself once a year thing.
But that is as vigorous a head shake as I've ever seen anybody give me. Love it, love it. All right, so that's one thing you have to have on your Thanksgiving table. What's one thing you got to throw in the trash?
You know what? Just like the regular corn kernels, I don't eat. I don't toss them
corn?
away.
Yeah, okay.
I like corn on the cob, but corn out of the can, I'm
out
good.
of the can? Oh, forget it. No, it can't come out of a can. If it comes out of a can, it's not worth doing.
I think she does it just for the kids.
Yeah, well, of course, yeah. Well, that's precisely who it's intended for, I think. Didn't they can vegetables, based on, we saw more canned vegetables come in the marketplace post-World War II. Here I'm going to go old school on everybody because it was a way to preserve things and keep them around longer because fresh vegetables weren't as prevalent. But it was also then in the 1950s, whenever it was playing Happy Susie Homemaker at home, it was the ease to which they could be prepared. That's how canned vegetables became. And now it's kind of like, dude, if I can't have fresh vegetables, or at least frozen, no, thank you.
Canned vegetables, they have weird nutrients and preservatives too.
The
metal taste.
I honestly, I have been a label reader, okay, at the grocery store for a number of years because I really do try to watch my svelte diet here. I try to anyway. But I watch my intake with sodium and sugar and all that stuff. And those of us in advanced age always have to do that, but everybody should, okay? And I read so many labels, and it just freaks me out, some of the preservatives in these canned vegetables. It's just like, whoa, I didn't know this. Whoa, I didn't know. And the extra calories and the sugar? Come on.
There was no fat people in Germany.
I believe that. And they drink beer and they eat brats, right? And there's no fat people.
This is like an extra large soda there,
Yeah, right? A bottle of water.
I'm holding a normal bottle of soda.
A bottle of water. I know. Okay, so there you go. All right, so I've given you several things to think about. I want you to chip in. All right, so let's get to actually Patty and Agawam was hanging in first. So Patty, you get to go here in the playbook. What's up?
What's going on, John?
Hey, Patty.
First and foremost, happy Thanksgiving to all the Patriots.com crew, and happy Thanksgiving to you and Miss Robin and your guys' family.
Thank you, Patty. Same to you and yours, my man.
Thank you. Before I get into the questions, I got to tell you, because you brought it up earlier in the show.
Yep.
And I'm waiting for the cool Hansel, or a cool story Hansel drop. I have 3 animals in my house, 2 dogs. One of the dogs is a lap dog named Archie, and I got a black cat named Edith.
Hey, that's fantastic. That's fantastic. I love it. Archie and Edith. Yeah. Listen. And so now, Patty, you're not as old as I am, but are you old enough to remember All in the Family?
I remember. I think it was ending its run when I was real little, but it was on in syndication when I was a kid in the early 80s.
Right, exactly. So it's lasted in syndication for a long time, but yeah, it ended its run, I think, mid-70s.
And I got a German named Lucy, and if we get another animal, we're going to name it Ricky. So we'll have Ricky and Lucy and
Archie and Edith. I think that's fantastic. And frankly, I like naming animals and pets off of favorite television characters. I do. I think that's fun. That's fun. Yeah, I'm with you. My 2 cats are both one's a big tabby, but they're both Maine Coons, so they have the big fur around their necks and big tails. One is Archibald, but he is named for Archie Bunker, but we call him Archibald. And then the other one is Zacchaeus with a Z. He's the one that I've dressed up, I should say Miss Robin dressed up for Halloween as Batcat. Only because he would. Archie looks at us like, don't even dare thinking about putting that piece of blank on my backside, okay? He's 13 years old, and he's just not going to put up with it. But Batcat will allow us to do that because he's only 6 months old. Zacchaeus is a biblical name for anybody that knows any of their biblical history. And we just decided because we wanted 2 cats from A to Z.
Nice.
Pretty simple. So there you go.
All right.
Now that we've shared.
The question. If I had to go one or the other, because I don't think either of them are going to be back, but if I had to go one or the other, I do think it would be Bill because he's got the track record. I mean, like what Jonathan Kraft said before, I can't remember if it was before this season or last season, that he's built up equity over his career here with the Patriots.
Yep.
And as much as I don't like the personnel decisions he's made the past few years, maybe like the past 6 or 7 years, he still is one of the best coaches and probably the best game plan coach in the league still today.
Okay.
And I think the Crafts would look at it this way, like, yeah, we're not going to let this, this kid that hasn't really lived up to his draft billing stick around and get rid of our coach, our legendary coach.
Yeah.
To me, that would have made too much sense if I had to pick one or the other. I'm sorry, the second question, because I got it.
Second question was the second question has to do with the one positive that you can take out of what you've seen thus far.
Yeah, you know what? You brought it up. It's the young guys, like I think, like Jabril Peppers, and I think Jelani Tavai. I think you got two younger guys there that at least like they're good players. They're really good players. But I think those are guys that can blossom into like the next generation of leaders of the Patriots, at least on the defensive side of the ball. And you know, there's hope and prosper for guys like Christian Gonzalez and for oh my God, John, I'm almost in drinking mode, so my brain is blanking out. Why can't I think of the big number 90? Why can't I think of his Christian Barmore?
Thank you. Yep.
The big, you know, you got some good foundational pieces there on defense, I think, going forward. And even a guy like if they bring back Kyle Duggar. I mean, who knows? But if they do bring him back.
I'd like for that to happen. I would like for that to happen. I'd like to see Duggar return.
I love Duggar. I love his athleticism. I love when they just pretty much stick him in the box and say, "Do your thing, buddy."
Yeah.
You know? So yeah, that's my one positive. I still think that if they can get the offense fixed over the next 2 years, they can be contenders. You know, and I think it's because they do have those foundational pieces on defense right now.
Okay.
So that is, to me, and that's a big positive for me.
Okay. I think that's a good positive. Now, what do you have to have on your Thanksgiving table, and what do you need to throw in the trash?
Well, I'm mostly Scottish and Irish, John, so I got to have the mashed potatoes on the table.
Yes, got to have the tates.
Got to have them.
Okay.
And what drives me nuts, now I don't get fresh cranberries like you, but I do get, like, you know, the store-bought cranberries that I make on the stovetop.
Okay, that's good.
What I could throw out is the canned crap that the wife puts in the cranberries that I keep in cool the night before.
But I'm of the age where at once upon a time I was probably well into my 20s before I realized that, you know, cranberry sauce was actually not a gelled thing that came out of a can.
I know.
I never had seen a cranberry before, and then of course the last decade I've had 3 cranberry bogs in my backyard until a year ago anyway, because I moved closer to the ocean. But I'm just like, wow, I never knew the process for, you know, producing and growing cranberries and how they sent them off to Ocean Spray or wherever the hell they sent them off to.
And to be like me growing up, it would all depend on how much my mom would have to drink the night before, I guess.
Yeah.
I think if she didn't have too much, we would get, like, the good cranberries.
Yep.
And,
yep.
you know, hungover Sally would just open up the can and say, here's the cranberries.
What's most disgusting is when you open up the can and you get that.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my God.
It just kind of gives me the willies when I hear that. So I have to take like a spoon and spoon it out because I just can't do that. So it's kind of like, ooh. Patty.
Know, they're whole. They're not actually all that bad, but when they're just that gelatinous blob.
Yeah. It's tough. That's a little. Yeah, I totally understand that one. Patty, happy Thanksgiving.
Prediction.
Yeah, go. You want to predict? Go ahead.
I'll take the Giants 17-10.
17-10. Yeah, I'm kind of leaning that direction myself, to be quite honest with you.
All right. Happy Thanksgiving, John.
Have a great holiday, Patty. Patty in Agawam. Eldred in North Carolina. Eldred, thanks for hanging in, brother. How are you?
Hey, Mr. Legend. Thank you, and I hope you and Miss I forgot her name.
Robin.
Thanksgiving.
Robin.
Yeah,
Miss Robin.
Robin. Yeah.
Thank you. Nope. That's quite all right. That's quite all right. She does ask about you from time to time, like, where was Eldred today? Whenever you don't call, so she wants to make sure that you're okay out there on the road when you're driving the 18-wheeler.
Tell her I say I appreciate it. Yes, I'm off today. We got off a little bit early because it's Thanksgiving Eve.
Of course.
Do a little cooking and everything else too.
Of course. So. Did the storm going up the East Coast? Did that get by you guys yesterday, or was it last night?
It hit us hard yesterday. Really Monday evening yesterday, and it's probably clearing up today, but like it's coming back again.
Oh, good Lord. Okay.
Yes, it's clouded on the wood in Charlotte.
Yeah, we've been nailed with it all day today. So.
Yes, so that's why we're doing it up here.
Right.
You know.
Right.
So I'm glad to be home early.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That'll make 2 of us here very, very soon. All right, tell me what you got. Tell me what's on your mind.
I'd rather neither one of them be here next year, but I know that ain't gonna happen.
Right.
So I got a feeling they both will be.
You think they both will be? Okay. All right.
Yes, sir. Because what I hate is, well, let me be frank. What I hate is let Bill run this draft board again. If by chance they say we don't be third, we get down to 7th or 8th. You know, by winning a couple games or whatever. Mm-hmm. And instead of him doing what he's supposed to do, because the last 5 drafts show everybody that he can't draft, or it ain't that he doesn't know the people. He don't want those people. He wants those other people because he thinks everybody in the draft is equal to the people down in the lower part of the draft, which is not so.
Yeah.
You got 7 good quarterbacks coming out this year. I don't want no part of Caleb Williams, especially when he said, point out, I would not play for New England or anybody else with a losing record.
Yeah.
That was his take. And New England was the first one out of his mouth.
Right.
Drake May, I see Drake May here. He don't show up good, especially when my team, Florida State, whooped that butt. That defense got to him and whatever. I like Jordan Travis, but he got hurt. He's gone for the year, so he's going to go down to a lower draft class. But I'm more intrigued with Pettit, And everybody's saying, well, he just throw the deep ball. No, he can throw the short ball, long ball, and he's accurate, 100% accurate. Mm-hmm. He can move a little bit. Had a couple injuries, I understand, but he's a darn good prospect. They got him going either first or second round. My main man is Marvin Harrison. I know we won't get him because Bill won't draft him.
A wide receiver.
The Bears end up getting him. The Bears will get him.
Yeah.
Because they got that up, and they're going to give Justin Fields that number 1 threat on the outside to go along with the rest of them. That's what I would do if I was them. But Bill, I don't trust with the draft, because of what he drafts and the way he drafts. And just like I said, the guard, or tackle, whatever, Cole Strain was a bust, just like Tyquan Thornton, bust. Y'all told me back then, so with the draft grade, I said an F. Y'all said you can't do that within 3 years. It's been a year and a half.
Well, I'd have to say that you're certainly trending toward that F. Yeah, without a doubt. Without a doubt.
Yes, sir. Without a doubt. But I've been, Bill, knowing Mr. Kraft, he ain't gonna have the gumption to pull. But if you look back, you're a businessman, and you see your business going down from the last 5 years, draft course, 2 and 8, and people in Bill's legendary status, once they lose, like I said, they lose that number 1 quarterback, it goes hill. Now, the only one that didn't was Shula. He made it to the playoffs a couple times, but he never could win after that. Mm-hmm. But everybody else, they suck. Excuse my language, but they did.
Yep.
And they had a bad ending towards their career when they should have got out on top. And Bill 72, I don't care what nobody say, he ain't changing his way. He ain't changing for nobody. He gonna always think that he's, his way is the best way. Just give me a top 15 quarterback, and they can run my system. Like I said, well, you got one. He couldn't run it. You grabbed the wrong one. So any 15 can't run your system. And everybody get mad at me, but like I say it again, and I mean it with 100% of my heart. He wasn't the greatest coach till he got the greatest player. I'm sorry. Mm-hmm. NFL facts have bagged that up. 48-52 out of 100 games. Mm-hmm. But he'll be back, and if he don't submit to the GM rule, well, we're gonna be doing this for years to come. Like I said before, 5 to 10, maybe longer once that quarterback's gone. The rebuild get back prominent. Yeah. It ain't always the same coach. It's another regime. Mm-hmm. And if I heard you earlier about Bill and the coaches tied to him, if I was the regime coming in, I try to keep Mayo as my defense coordinator. Troy Brown got to go as my wide receiver coach because he's effing it up as training those wide receivers.
I would have to say that's largely that's actually been one of the disappointments that really nobody has talked about this year, but it's been, or very few have talked about it, I'll put it that way. But the development of the wideouts under Troy Brown has been non-existent, and Troy's been critical of himself the few times that we've heard from him. When the assistant coaches have their time to be interviewed, I would say that there's a disconnect there in some form or fashion, either with what he's teaching or what those guys are picking up from the organization. There's a disconnect. And, yeah, and nobody wants to say, oh, Troy's done a horrible job, because Troy is beloved as a Patriots former player, because of what he meant to the team and his give it all, and the fact that he was a very low draft pick, coming from a little known place like Marshall and blah blah blah. But hey, look, this is a bottom line business, and I think everybody on this staff, including Troy Brown, has to be held accountable.
Especially wide receiver, the one that came out that did good, and I hate because Mitchell got hurt and they helped us win that Super Bowl, was Mitchell.
Mm-hmm.
He that's the one he did good, but everybody else, all the other wide receivers, nothing. Taekwondo threw it, nothing. And I told everybody again, Harry was a bust from Jump Street. Should have got DK, or A.J. Brown. And what makes us mad, like I said, they worked them all out. They went and saw all of them. And then you're going to pick Harry because of Coach Edwards. Bomb deal.
Mm-hmm.
Bomb deal. But he got to go. I wish they had hired Sean Jefferson last year when he came over with Bill O'Brien, because I think Taekwondo would be a little bit better. But then again, I still say they ain't using them right, because I don't know. It's just the way things happen, and they just can't develop that group. They hit on Gonzalez, but they flunked 5 years before then.
Yep.
Yep. And Gonzalez failed too, but he could have got a better cornerback, not better than Gonzalez, a good one last year. But he passed on him.
Yeah.
Could have got one when he got Cole Strange.
Yeah.
You passed on him.
Mm-hmm.
And you got Strange and all that other junk.
Mm-hmm.
It's just this drafting. And like I say, he gets set up in this age, and my way or the highway. And then he don't keep the core guys that he trained. Myers. I hate if they let the safety go. They let
Peppers?
When you go. Not Peppers. The other 23.
Oh, Duggar, Kyle Duggar.
Duggar. Yeah, if they let Duggar, to me, my core is Duggar, the running back, and then that's right there.
Stevenson.
Got that contract. Stevenson is coming up.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I try to build around that a little bit right there. But those are guys I'm keeping because it's time for their contract.
Okay.
I'm keeping those guys.
Okay.
But you let Myers go, you let some more guys go, and they flourishing everywhere else.
Okay. So is that really your positive out of all of this, that you found some guys that you definitely want to keep?
That one, and I love Barmore.
Christian Barmore. Yeah. He belongs in that conversation. I agree with that.
Yeah, and I believe I'm hoping that Keon White spurs just a little bit more.
Yeah, me too. Me too.
A little bit more.
I had a lot of expectation for Keon before the season started. Some of it was probably misguided because I wanted it bad enough. But from what little I saw of him in camp and the preseason, I thought this guy could end up being a player. I wondered, just because of the way things have played out, that some of that growth hasn't been stunted a little bit. But I'd still like to continue to see him get opportunities here, because I think he can make a very good professional football player at some point in time in the very near future.
Me too. Hey, Mr. Legend.
Yo.
I tried looking up Claire Perspective.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I can't find it on the podcast.
You can't.
I've been looking on.
All right.
I can't find it. No,
Did you try to contact her on Twitter?
Twitter?
Yeah.
X. No, sir, I haven't.
Okay, all right. Well, her handle on Twitter is @ClazzyClare, ClazzyClare. All right? And she might even be listening to this. So, Claire, if you're listening to this, Eldred wants to know where he can get your podcast.
Yep.
Right?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Love to talk to her.
Okay.
Yep.
See? So there you go. All right, that's good.
Yep.
All right, and Thanksgiving dinner. I got to ask you,
too.
what has to be on your table?
Has to be my turkey that I cook.
Ooh. Okay. No. Well, we secrets we need, ideas we need. How do you prepare it?
Mm-hmm. I prepare it. Well, I let it start for 2 days. Real good.
Mm-hmm.
Marinated on Wednesday night.
Marinated with what?
I'm not going to give you my secrets, sir.
Come on, Eldred. Come on. You cannot do that here. You cannot do that here. It's just the two of us anyway.
Yeah,
nobody else is listening.
For 6 years, and they all, are you going to do the turkey this year, because my sister wanted fried turkey one time, So we did that. I didn't do the turkey. They said, "Did you bring yours on?" I said, "Nope." Mm-mm. So next year, when they got rid of the fried turkey, now I'm doing all the turkey.
So you guys ditched the fried turkey, deep fried, I assume, for your
Yes, sir.
your recipe.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Well, you got to give me a hint. I'll share with you. I'll share with you because I cook the turkey as well. Okay, that's my deal, and it's my brine. I brine the turkey. In fact, it's brining right now as we speak. And when I go home from the studio here, I will go home and I will clean it and prepare it for the oven tomorrow. But it's still brining right now. So I will share with you my brine recipe if you at least give me a little hint about what you do.
What I do?
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on. Help a brother out now. Come on. You know we're brothers from another mother, so let's go.
Yes, sir.
All
Yes,
right.
sir.
Okay.
So my marinade sauce is I start with apple cider vinegar,
Ooh, okay.
a little soy sauce,
Soy. Yep.
some garlic, some thyme,
Mm-hmm.
thyme,
Mm-hmm.
and I put a little what's that? Can't give you the main thing, but shoot. But like I said,
You're going to give me everything but the main ingredient. Otherwise, it sucks without this main ingredient. Okay, I got it.
yes. So what I do is I put that in there, and then like I said, I get my turkey cleaned and everything ready.
Yeah.
And about another 30 minutes, I'm finna to go in there and put it in the marinate all over it.
Yep.
Put it in the bag, put it in the refrigerator.
Yep.
And Thursday morning at about 6, I get up and I cook it.
Yep.
And if I don't put it in at 7, so we be at my sister's house at 2:30. On Thanksgiving, we go to my sister's house.
Yep.
Christmas time, they come to my house.
Yeah.
Or vice versa.
So do you
this year,
cook
I'm
both
going to her
turkeys?
house.
Do you do turkey again on Christmas?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Turkey, sweet potato pie, banana pudding.
Oh, sweet potato pie and banana pudding?
Yes.
My veins hurt just hearing you say that.
And what I don't like is macaroni and cheese. I'm sorry.
Really?
I can't eat it.
I see. You being a son of the South, I would think you would like mac and cheese.
Sir, I did a long time ago, but you heard of Nestle, right? Stouffer's,
Yeah.
Lean Cuisine, and
Yeah.
Nestle.
Yeah.
Well, okay. Gaffney, South Carolina, where I used to stay at, Stouffer's had a big plant there. Still got a big plant there until Nestle brought them out.
Mm-hmm.
So I worked on line 7. So we did mac and cheese for a year every day. So either I prep the noodles, made the sauce, prep the sauce,
Okay.
applied the noodles, or
No-
whatever.
Enough
Had
said.
a taste on it.
I got it.
tired of
I got you. Yeah, you got sick of it. I totally get it.
Got sick
I
of it.
understand.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I get it.
Yes.
All right, so I'll let you know what's in my brine. All right, it depends on the quantity. Now I won't give you the quantity, but I'll give you the ingredients. So I brine mine.
Okay.
First of all, I take the turkey's got to be completely thawed, and then I put it in a double bagged, garbage bag is what I do. Like I'm going to throw it out, except I'm not going to throw it out. And then what I cook for the brine, it has water, has brown sugar, has maple syrup, has salt, has peppercorns, has bay leaf, and has soy sauce.
Well, I tried that brown sugar once before, and it kind of like the bag got kind of stuck to. I'm like, what the devil? How you cut that out? I used to put that in there too.
Well, I would tell you that the secret ingredients really in this particular instance are the brown sugar and the maple syrup. Largely because it gives it a flavor where it really eliminates a lot of the gaminess. If some people don't prefer turkey, it's usually because it's probably a little gamey, and that's the way that turkeys usually are. But the brown sugar and the maple, they smooth out that gaminess where it's just if you do it right, it's like butter. It really is.
Okay.
It smells good.
Gotcha.
The bay gives it a lot of good flavor as well. And then I like the peppercorn because I like mine to have a little bit of spice to it. You could add garlic, but Miss Robin's not a huge fan of garlic, so I leave the garlic out.
Yeah, I gotta look
and I put a little fresh crunched salt in there, and then the soy sauce for a little body and just and largely just to sort of keep it from being too sweet, because you don't want something that's too sweet, and meat is not supposed to be that sweet. It's supposed to have a little bit of it's supposed to have a little hardness to it. So that's kind of what I do, and then it's worked every time. every time. Every time I brine a turkey, it works every time. So that's why we don't put a turkey straight in the oven from the wrapper. I've got to take a good 24 to 36 hours to prep it and brine it and then clean it and then baste it while it's cooking. And if you baste it with that brine again after you've got it in the oven, it's going to be nice and golden, and the skin will be crispy, and the flavor will be all throughout it. So it works out pretty well.
That sounds real good too.
Okay, see, there you go. Now, what's the one thing that you'd like to throw in the trash off of your table?
Mac and cheese.
Okay, all right. I figured as much. Figured you're going to probably go there. So, all right. I have to admit,
Yes.
it's a big thing up here, at least in the Northeast, and where we're located. And I'm not sure why, but I don't do the. My wife and her mother, they love carrots and turnips. And I can't do it. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. Yeah, I can't do it. I mean, it's just that they like it, and so every once in a while we bring it to the table. But they're like, "Oh, do you want any carrots and turnips?" And I'm like, "No, thank you. I'm going to have an extra helping of this."
Gotcha.
I don't want to be mean.
Yeah,
of course, Miss Robin's listening right now anyway. She's like, okay, scratch that off the list. So, but I don't mean that to be bad. It's just that I don't know. Turnips and I have just never really agreed, and I'm not sure why, because I remember my grandpa used to love turnips. In fact, the other vegetable he loved that I didn't really develop a taste for until I was much older in life are Brussels sprouts. And a lot of people still don't like Brussels sprouts. It's an acquired taste. I do too. But he loved turnips and Brussels sprouts. And the only way that I could eat those is if I threw a bunch of Tabasco sauce on it. And and of course my grandfather, I remember he used to call them little cabbages, because that's what they look like. They look like little cabbages, right? And he put that on there, and that would make them edible. But I couldn't do it with turnips. I tried. I couldn't do it.
Brussels sprouts with hot sauce. Your house must have been awful.
Oh, yeah. Brussels sprouts with hot sauce. Yeah, absolutely. Between me and my grandfather, oh, yeah. Let's put it this way. Gas furnace was working. It was working. It was fired up. That's the way it worked.
Yes,
Hey,
sir.
it's always Eldred. I really always look forward to our conversations. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to visit with us, and I wish you and your family a very happy Thanksgiving.
Same here, Mr. Legend. Always good talking to you, sir.
You too.
So you have a good one.
Yep, you too.
You too, Marine. Yes, sir.
See, there you go. Hoorah! He just gave it back to you. Eldred in North Carolina, one of the good ones out there. They're all good. You're all good. I appreciate you a lot. 855-PATS-500, 855-PATS-500, web radio at patriots.com, at JR Broadcaster on the social media app formerly known as Twitter. I'm going to start calling it that. I don't really care. I got this little tidbit as well from this week's game that I wanted to share because I don't guess I was aware of this. Well, the Patriots sent this out a little while ago, and I'm not sure who they sent it to yet, but I just wanted to pass this along, that Coach Belichick is going to coach in his 423rd overall game since joining the Patriots in 2000, okay? And this also includes the postseason. So he's 423 games now that he will have coached when he steps in on the sideline against the Giants this weekend. Belichick is going to tie Don Shula for the third most games coached with one team in NFL history. Now, I'll wager you can gather who number 1 and 2 are on the list. Number 1 is a slam dunk. It's George Halas with the Chicago Bears, right? Okay. Number 2 on the list with one team now, okay? And it was I'll give you a hint, it was the only team that he coached before he was unceremoniously gassed by Jerry Jones. It's Tom Landry. Tom Landry's second on that list with 454 games with one team. So Belichick ties Shula at 423 for number 3. So he's definitely going to pass Don Shula in one category in 2 weeks when the Patriots come back home to play. He will move into third place all time in games coached with one team, including the postseason. And that would also leave him 83 games behind George Halas. I'll be honest, I don't know if he gets there or not. I don't know if he gets there. And that kind of speaks to the question that I had for you today. One of the questions that I had for you today, which certainly goes along with, this time next year, who's more likely to be here? Is it Bill or is it Mac? And the more that I've thought about it, I've actually danced, probably the turnip two-step on this one, back and forth from Bill to Mac to Bill to Mac. And right now, I'd have to say, if you really held my feet to the fire over this one, I would say more likely to be here next year is Mac. And that's not because I really think the Patriots are going to part ways with Bill. I've gone back and forth on this one, too. I've had a range of emotions on this one, just like you guys have. And the only reason I would say Mac over Bill at this stage is because, first of all, I don't think Bill needs the angst anymore. He's going to want to go to a place. I think it's pretty clear he wants to still coach for a couple of more years, not to pass the coaching record. Most games coached with one team that a guy like George Halas has, but I certainly think the wins record that Don Shula has at 347. I think that's important to him, and I've always said that. I've maintained that for the last couple of years since we really started talking about it, when 300 looked like it was going to be right around the corner. I think it means something to him because Bill is a historian of the game. I think the Krafts are historians of the game. Let's remember, they started out as season ticket holders of this franchise before Mr. Kraft bought the team back in the early 90s. So I think that they would love for that to happen. I don't know if he's going to get that chance because I think Mr. Kraft, also being the multi-billionaire that he is a businessman, and he understands that, hey, you know what? Sometimes you have to operate in the interest of the business. Just like Bill has always said, I'm only doing what I think is in the best interest of the football team. Mr. Kraft has to do what's in the best interest of the franchise. So if they're both adhering to those principles, that's why I make the choice of Mac being here next year over Bill if I have to choose between one. Like, I think it was Patty who just mentioned, he said, I think both of them are going to be here. No, Eldred said that. Eldred said both of them are going to be here next year. I happen to agree with that. I think both will still be here next year. That's where I currently am. But if I had to choose one over the other, that's why I would choose Mac, because to me, it's a business decision. You can control his salary. And, yeah, you're probably going to have to pay off Bill, but allegedly only for a year, and you're going to get something back in return for him. If you cut Mac, you get nothing unless you trade him. So, I'm going to side with Mac on that one. That's kind of what I have to. That's kind of where I am. As far as the positive out of this year, I mentioned it in the previous conversations here. I'm going to take the play of Jabril Peppers because I like the mindset that he brings. I like the rough, tough, ready to rumble, I want to hit somebody, mindset. Which is, to me, that's what the mid-2000 Patriots had. And if you really want to get back to championship level football, you got to have a team full of these guys. I like that. That's what I think. And I'm glad that somebody in that locker room feels likewise. And then, as far as the stuff I got to have on my table, which I go in the trash, look, my favorite side is Miss Robin's cornbread stuffing. She was baking the cornbread when I left for the studio today. The house smells like heaven. It's just like, you got to be kidding me, right? That's not real. That's like dreaming it.
John, I felt something move.
Oh, something just stirred. I got it. Okay, her cornbread stuffing is out of this world. What I can do without is what I just told you with Eldred. I can do without the carrots and turnips, although I don't think that's on the menu for tomorrow. I don't believe it's on the menu. So there ain't going to be anything that I'm not going to want to partake in, and so I feel blessed. I feel very blessed. I feel, very privileged to have that because I know there are a lot of people that don't necessarily have that. And my wish to you is that good fortune smiles upon you wherever you are because everybody deserves that. We have so much going wrong in the world these days. There's something that happens almost every day in the news that makes you just shake your head. Hashtag SMH, right? And you just wonder, how did we get here? And so, at least for a moment, I want to wish peace. I want to wish good fortune. That's what I want. That's what I want for everyone. It sounds cliche-ish and very immature to say, I want everybody to be happy. Well, I kind of do, because I do try to appreciate every day that I'm here. And I hope that you guys kind of feel likewise. Yeah, happy Thanksgiving to each and every one of you. And speaking of Thanksgiving,
a real woman could stop you from drinking.
It has to be a real big woman.
It's time to go around the NFL with football guru Russell Baxter
Now on, your name is Flounder.
on Patriots Playbook.
Flounder?
happy Thanksgiving Eve, Mr. Baxter.
Happy Thanksgiving to you, too. I wish you peace. Would it be pumpkin or apple?
See, I knew you would do that. That's called the old softball toss that you just went, pow, right out of here.
High lob at the net, you got to hit it back.
Yeah, I have to, in fact, when I'm done here, I'll be not only going back to the kitchen where Miss Robin is preparing the cornbread, but I go to work in the kitchen, Russell, because I do the baking.
Oh.
Yes, I do the baking, and so pumpkin pie is definitely on the menu, and it is my grandmother's recipe.
See, I do a lot of cooking in my house, not baking. Baking's got many measurements for me. I like to play around. But it's funny, if I ever did, I said this to somebody last week, if I ever did want to start baking, I think I'd be baking breads.
Breads?
Doing different stuff like breads and rolls and maybe even crackers, flatbread, stuff
totally.
like that. That's the kind of stuff appeals to me.
Totally, yeah. No, I would tend to agree with that one, and those are vastly underrated. So let's start with this one today. The one thing that you cannot do without on your Thanksgiving table.
Seconds.
Okay. I should have seen that one coming.
I think stuffing epitomizes Thanksgiving. And a lot of that. And I'm one of those people that likes their sausage and their stuffing and stuff. But I think one of the other things that epitomizes Thanksgiving is putting that turkey, stuffing, mashed potatoes, and cranberry sauce all into one fork.
Yeah, that's pretty impressive.
And getting all the food groups, brown, white, beige,
all the colors,
and all that.
Try to get all the food group colors in one fork. That's a challenge.
That flavor combination, the four of those things together,
totally.
That's dynamite. And of course, you do turkey sandwiches, turkey salad.
Oh, dude, there's nothing better.
There's it sound like Bubba Gump.
No question. There is no better leftover than a day after turkey sandwich.
Oh yeah. Yeah, well, my good friend Tom Jackson, you all know who he is and so on. We will often talk about basically the stuffing, the turkey, and the cranberry sauce on the bread.
Oh, yeah. Turkey stuffing. In fact, I'll tell you who taught me how to make the best turkey sandwich ever is Pete Brock.
Oh, okay.
The Patriots Super Bowl center from Super Bowl XX. But, Pete and I were broadcast partners doing college football together for a number of years. And, his wife, it was spectacular, but it was nothing more than thinly sliced, fresh turkey. It wasn't like deli style or anything, but it was thinly sliced. And then you had a layer of stuffing, and then you had a layer of mashed potato, and then you had a layer of cranberry sauce, and then on top of that, you had a small piece of cheese, not to disturb from really the flavor, but to just kind of keep everything bound together, and then a drizzle of turkey gravy with the bread.
That's like a Thanksgiving lasagna.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it was. Basically, it was a Thanksgiving lasagna between two pieces of bread. And I'm just like, oh, my goodness. And so when we would travel over Thanksgiving weekend, Pete he'd bring this little bag along, and he said, looky what I got here, John. And it was the little, grab bag full of, Thanksgiving sandwiches. And I'm just like, oh, my gosh. I am a blessed person. So yeah, that was how I learned to make my Thanksgiving sandwich. Yeah, absolutely.
I'll quickly tell you my favorite Thanksgiving story. Before I got into this profession and finding my way around life and so on, I worked at a resort in the Poconos called Shawnee on the Delaware, big timeshare resort.
Okay.
So on, I worked with a young lady named Sue Adamczyk, who's still a very, very good friend of mine.
Yeah.
And one of the things I always told her is my mother couldn't stand the fact that I had to work on Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
She wanted her family together, all 11 of us together. And she also felt that everyone should have a place to be on Thanksgiving. Nobody should have to work.
Yeah.
And Sue and I worked that night till about 9:30. Sue came over to my house, and at 10 p.m., my mother made Sue a turkey sandwich, just so she could feel that she was somewhere for Thanksgiving.
How about that? That's really great.
Yeah.
That's really great. And I like to try to do the same as much as we can, so that's just, that's part of, that's part of the whole, giving thanks as far as I'm concerned. We lose sight of what. Yeah,
that was my mom.
Yeah, and God bless your mom for that attitude. My mom and my grandmothers were both like that, and so I've tried to pick up a little bit in their memories, over the years to try to give back, because I think we lose sight of what this holiday is really supposed to be about in this country, right?
Well, it's funny. A young lady that you might remember from ESPN that we used to work with named Diane Dillon.
Okay, I remember meeting her. Yeah,
in the offices and so on, and I used to have a thing at my house, John, called the Baxter Luau. I won't tell you how many people would attend, and I won't tell you some of the things that happened. They're good memories, and for some people, they'll never remember anything that happened.
Mm-hmm.
Okay?
Mm-hmm.
But one day, Diane, at one of the parties one year, we did this for a long time. Somebody came up to me when Diane was sitting there and said, Russell, why do you do this every year? Why do you open your house and you make all the food and all that stuff? And without even blinking, Diane looked at me and said, because of your mom, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We
yeah. I got to meet my mom when my mom came up to ESPN and made Italian food a couple of times.
Mm-hmm.
And that was like 20-something years ago. The people were still full.
Yeah.
Okay.
Not a surprise. Wow, I wish I'd been around for that. I bet that was an experience.
Oh, I every once in a while on Facebook, one of the people I used to work with will bring up my mom's. One year she made lasagna, John, and after her visit and so on, I asked her if she had a good time. She said yes, but she said, I'll never make lasagna for your friends again. And I went, oh my God, who said something to my mom? And she goes, no, your friends are fine. But your friends eat lasagna cold. You're not allowed to eat lasagna cold. She said, if it's guys on the street, she goes, next year when I come up here, I'm bringing them sausage and meatballs and crock pots and pasta salad, and we're going to keep everything hot.
Okay.
And then a year later, that's exactly what she did.
How about that? That's awesome. Yeah. Maureen just told us at the beginning of the show that he is in charge of the Thanksgiving lasagna in his household. So
there you go.
Yeah.
If I found out anybody ate it cold, I wouldn't invite him back.
See? He's a stickler for that.
When my mom made that first visit, true story, Chris Berman was helping, and my mom took the plate out of his hands and went downstairs and microwaved it. I'm not kidding. That's true.
Mrs. Baxter, you need to get back here.
But it's true. She was like, no, you're not eating this cold. No way. So, great stuff.
I think I just cracked myself up with that one. Such the life that I lead. All right, so we've gone from things that we have to have on the table to things that we would just as soon throw in the trash. Is there anything on the Thanksgiving table that you're not a big fan of?
Sweet potatoes, yams, too starchy for me.
Okay. Yeah. Well, I have to have sweet potatoes, so you'll forgive me.
Yeah. It's just. I mean, listen, I have to choose something.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm a crescent roll person. I'm not a biscuit person.
Yeah. I'm not a big bread person for Thanksgiving either, because there's just so much. Yeah. There's just so much. I mean, a lot of people say, well, you got to have something, to kind of scooch it around with or sop up the gravy or whatever. And I'm like, yeah, but, I'm already carbing out and calorying out, and I gotta give something up. And so usually for Thanksgiving, it's bread.
Yeah, okay, I can see that. I mean, I like my hors d'oeuvres. I like my my dips and different things like that. So
Miss Robin makes a nice stuffed mushroom.
Ooh.
A nice stuffed mushroom stuffed with fresh sliced Parmesan cheese. And it's and with a little drizzle of olive oil on it. It's you want to talk about something that melts when you eat it? That does.
Well, this wasn't Thanksgiving, but my sister-in-law made bacon wrapped dates once.
Ooh, now that's the sweet and the salty thing going there.
Yes.
Oh, I bet that's fantastic.
Oh, it was great, especially with the prime rib that went with it.
Oh God! Wow. Okay. Party time. Party time.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. I suppose then we should talk a little football, even though
maybe.
Yeah, maybe not. But we'll at least we'll start this way. I love the piece that you got out on full press coverage. I guess it was earlier today that it got out. So forgive me if I don't know the exact time. But just worrying about some of the things that you had dug up for Week 12 going in the calendar this week, and it's a holiday weekend, we know, and it starts with 3 pretty decent games, I think, actually on Thanksgiving Day, which we're not always blessed with, and a lot of that is due to the fact that the Lions are just significantly better than what they've been in recent years. But this is also one of those rare weekends, especially this time of year, when every team, all 32 of them, are in action.
Yeah, and 10 of the 16 games this week are in the division.
Wow,
Not
okay.
all of them are rematches. Detroit and Green Bay is a rematch, but this is the first time for Washington and Dallas. This is the first time for San Francisco and Seattle. We have two teams that were in the playoffs last year, the Ravens and the Chargers on Sunday night. Interconference, interesting, Buffalo and Philadelphia. Philadelphia was, to me, a major statement what they did on Monday night at Kansas City, hanging in there and coming back from 10 down. By the way, the Chiefs have not scored a point in the second half in 3 straight games.
Wait, what? Say that again?
The Kansas City Chiefs have gone 3 straight games without scoring a point in the second half.
What's the issue there?
I don't know. When they played Philadelphia in the Super Bowl, they scored 24 points in the second half.
Oh, good Lord. Yeah, that's right. I guess that hadn't dawned on me until you just said it.
Well, they've really struggled with adjustments. It's their point production from a year ago is way down. Now, their defensive production is also way up. They had that game against Denver where they gave up some running yards, and they're kind of middle of the pack against the run. They also, I think, run a little better. But, the pass that Patrick Mahomes threw late in the game, they were just off a second. It was damn near the game-winning touchdown. But listen, the Chiefs have already lost as many games as they did all of last year. They don't look nearly as explosive. That being said, the only team in the AFC West with a winning record. Now, what's going to get interesting is how this all jockeys out. Everybody in the division, everybody who's leading the division, the AFC, John, has 3 losses. All of them have 7 wins. They have Baltimore's 8 wins because they've played one more game. I bring that up because there's one thing the Kansas City Chiefs have not done during the Patrick Mahomes era, and that's play a road playoff game.
Okay. Certainly hadn't thought of that, yeah.
Now, I'm not talking about neutral sites. Obviously, they've been to 3 Super Bowls. Those are some neutral site games. And Patrick Mahomes has never started a playoff game on the road.
Wow, that's amazing.
And it's kind of weird when you think about it, because when you make the playoffs as many times as they have in a row, and Patrick Mahomes has been, and the Chiefs have been the 5 straight AFC championship games, and they've hosted all of them. And listen, they've lost AFC championship games at home. They lost to the Patriots in overtime. They lost to the Bengals a couple of years ago. So they're not infallible at home. In fact, this year, they've already lost 2 home games. 2 of their 3 losses are at home.
Right.
So it's listen, Super Bowl hangovers. Everybody, you know why it is so tough to repeat. It's been nearly 20 years, and it's certainly not to be written off. Maybe they get hot later in the year and so on, but it's been kind of a different kind of year for him, and a different style of team that Andy Reid has.
Right. Here's another thing that I liked that you had in your piece today. That because and thanks to the win that they had over Kansas City this week. Speaking of the Chiefs, the Eagles have won 4 in a row, which is co-ownership of the longest current winning streak in the league. And the other team that's also won 4 in a row, you would never guess, Denver. That's stunning. Yeah. You don't think of that, but yeah, but I mean, I'll be honest. I think Mr. Wilson has resurrected himself a little bit, and that's largely the reason why Denver's won 4 in a row. Well,
he has made the plays at the right times. He's cut back on the mistakes. The defense has played well. They're running ball with a little more emphasis. The other night against Minnesota, they basically couldn't get into the end zone until late in the game. They're finding ways to win, and they're also, listen, they beat Kansas City, they won at Buffalo, and on a short week they came home and beat Minnesota. Minnesota came into the game with a 5-game winning streak, which was the longest in the league. So they've really resurrected themselves and so on. And what was interesting about Denver and Minnesota's still there. We've only seen, I believe it's 6 teams, John, reach the playoffs after being 0-3. Now, Denver and Minnesota both opened 0-3 this year. It's not out of the realm of possibility both of them could be in the postseason.
Which would then provide a couple of positive numbers in an extraordinary statistic that is extraordinarily negative. We talked about this a few weeks ago.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But it almost epitomizes what the league is now. You look at some of Houston was a last place team a year ago.
Yep.
Houston has doubled its win from a year ago, but Denver was a last place team. They're now sitting at 5-5. Some of the other teams have not answered the bill and so on, and have kind of stayed where they are. But Cleveland was the last place team. They've already equaled their win total from a year ago.
Yep.
So, as we saw last year, 4 teams that were last place teams in 2021 were all playoff teams in 2022. And 2 of them, the Giants and the Jaguars, actually won playoff games. So the topsy-turvy nature of this league is very, very evident. And yet we had a 20-year run by the Patriots, and right now a hell of a run by the Chiefs.
Yep.
So, there's always seems to be one exception to the rule. And you know what? And it's funny, even though they don't have the Super Bowl win, 2 Super Bowl wins over the stretch, it's time to look at the Philadelphia Eagles on a little bit of a dominating run here as well. With the exception of a couple of years ago when they missed the playoffs and fell flat on their face. And they've done it with different head coaches as well.
Right.
They were in the Super Bowl in 2017 when they won. They were in the Super Bowl last year. They right now have the best record in the league. The common denominator is not a coach or a quarterback. It's the general manager, Howie Roseman.
I also want to spend at least a moment here on Buffalo, because the Bills have already lost 2 more games than they did all of last season. I know that they are continuing to kind of hang in there with Miami. They're, a game and a half out of the lead of the AFC East. But this is not a team that appears to be anywhere close to what it was over the last couple of years. And I've heard so many people say, hey, their window of opportunity is gone. And I know a lot of Patriots fans may feel that way as well. And yet this week, the Bills get to step into a game with Philadelphia, which sounds hard. But then when you consider Buffalo is 3-0 in interconference games this year, what are we to make of that?
Well, they catch Philadelphia off a short week.
Yep.
The thing about the Bills that is so bizarre is they play this very loosey-goosey style of football, and sometimes it pays off for them in a huge win. But more, I can't say more times than not because they have a winning record. But these turnovers more times often have come back to bite them. They did in week 1. Josh Allen had 4 turnovers. They lost the game in overtime to the Jets. Here's one that is amazing. Okay, talk about give and take. Last year, the Bills were 13-3. They had 27 takeaways and 27 turnovers.
Wow.
This year, the Bills are 6-5.
Yep.
They have 19 takeaways.
Yep.
And 19 turnovers.
That's nuts.
Okay, so in the last, let's see, it would be. Remember, they only played 16 games last year. Okay, so was that 27 games they've played? 27 games, 46 turnovers, 46 takeaways.
That's crazy. At least there's a little consistency there, but I would tell you for a championship level team, you need to do a little bit better in the giveaway department.
Well, you listen. It's one of my favorite stats of all time, and it was a different era of football. We've had 57 Super Bowl champions.
Yep.
There's only been one to lead the league in turnovers and win the Super Bowl the same year, and that was with the 1979 Pittsburgh Steelers.
Wow.
Okay. Now, wait till you hear this, John, because the irony of this is amazing. They eventually went on and beat the Rams in Super Bowl 14.
Yep.
John, in 16 regular season games, they turned over the ball 52 times.
62 times in 16 games?
52 times.
Oh, my gosh.
52. They had a 9-turnover game against the Bengals, an 8-turnover game against the Chargers. Now, you want to hear how talented this team was? They turned over the ball 52 times and led the league in scoring.
Man, was that defense ever on the field? They got off the field. That was the point, right?
Well, yeah, I mean, exactly. And back then, in the late 70s, as you know, it was more Bradshaw in the offense than it was Joe Green in the defense.
Yeah, you're right.
The defense was getting a little older, and the rules had changed. Okay, in 78, the rules changed dramatically. So, Terry Bradshaw was never shy about throwing the ball into a crowd or deep or whatever. But imagine that, turn over the ball 52 times and still being the number one scoring team in the league.
That's crazy. That means every time they had the ball, they were doing something constructive with it.
Something was going to happen, something exciting, be it in their favor or not.
Yeah, no fooling. So the 3 Turkey Day games, of the 3, clearly, it's cool to see the Lions competitive and a chance to win, leading their division. I'm used to Dallas, Washington, Turkey Day games, throughout, my younger years, because that was always a tradition on Thanksgiving as a kid growing up in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But the one that has the most intrigue to me might be the nighttime game with the Niners playing at the Seahawks, because San Francisco's won 9 straight times against the NFC West.
Yes, and rolled most of them and beat Seattle 3 times last year, including the playoffs.
Yeah.
And if memory serves me, just by starting quarterback, I believe Trey Lance started the first Seattle game and got hurt, and they was lost for the rest of the year. I think, I might be wrong on this. I'm trying to remember when Jimmy Garoppolo, or that was Brock Purdy. I don't know if Jimmy Garoppolo was the second starter. Brock Purdy might have started the other 2, the playoff game, and then there was a primetime game and so on. I can't remember when Garoppolo got hurt off the top of my head. Doesn't matter.
Mm-hmm.
They really dominated. The last time the 49ers lost a game in the NFC West was actually the NFC Championship game to the Rams.
Wow.
In 2021.
Wow. Okay. So it's been a while.
Yeah.
Been a while.
It sounds very Patriot-like, those long winning streaks in the division.
That's exactly right, within the division. We got a Black Friday game for the very first time, and it happens to be in the AFC East, Dolphins playing at the Jets. Any thoughts about that one?
Well, I know Miami had a bad offensive day last week and only scored 20 points. I know the Jets have had a bad 3 weeks. They've scored 24 points in 3 games. And I believe 1 touchdown in those 3 games.
Mm-hmm.
And if you include, in fact, the Jets have been limited, John, to 13 points or less in their last 4 games. And that being said, the Jets will probably win 50-49.
I'll take that one.
Here's what I will say.
I'll bet the under.
It's a Friday game. It's goodness knows what the crowd's going to be.
Yeah.
So on.
Yeah.
And Miami still winning. By the way, they haven't won a division title. They lead the division. They haven't won a division title already. 2008.
Yeah, I knew that.
That was the year they tied the Patriots, and Patriots missed the playoffs.
Right.
In tiebreakers.
That was the Tom Brady knee injury year.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And it's Miami hasn't been super sharp as of late in terms of holding on to the football. I want to say they had 3 turnovers last week and survived the Raiders. So they're not putting up the juggernaut offensive numbers, and they certainly have not run the ball well the last 4 games.
Mm-hmm.
So listen, as strange as it may sound, the Jets are the only team this year to beat the Eagles.
Yeah, that is nuts.
So
that's right. That's right. Got to keep that in mind. Yeah.
Right. Now, this is a huge game for Miami. To get another divisional win, and it would be a road divisional win and so on. And they still have Buffalo at Miami later in the year. They also have some tricky games ahead. I think they have Dallas to play yet.
Yep.
So, this stretch run is going to be fascinating because if you really look at it, no one, and I know it's only 9 or 10 games, but no one has really pulled away.
Right.
San Francisco looked like it was going to dust the NFC West, and if they lose, them and Seattle are going to have the same record.
Same record. They'd be tied.
So
yeah.
It's going to be even, and I think that even though Detroit has a 2-game lead, basically, keep in mind that the Lions and the Vikings don't play each other until Week 16 and Week 18.
Wow, almost back to back, 2 of the last 3 weeks, and they
I will say this: Week 18, if the division title is up for grabs, that'll be your Sunday night game.
No question. Last game of the regular season. All right, and so the Patriots at the Giants Sunday at 1. It's a war of attrition bowl more than anything else, rather than the Super Bowl, which is what it seems like these two teams have played each other most often in over the last decade or so.
Yeah, they have combined to score 290 points, which is 15 points less than the Miami Dolphins have scored this year.
So, and that's combined. So we're saying it's going to be like a 15-14 final on Sunday, right?
No, it'll be another 50-49 game like the other.
I'll take the under.
About this, and I'm not a big gambling guy at all and a point spread guy, but the New England is actually favored.
Yeah.
Coming into this game, I think a lot of that has to do with Tommy DeVito, the young quarterback, who, by the way, had a big day against Washington last week, despite being a rookie. He was sacked 9 times, John, and he was sacked 5 times in the first quarter.
And still won.
For almost 250 yards.
Yeah, and still won.
Maybe that says something about Washington's defense more than anything else. So I think that's why maybe New England is favored in this game. But not a lot of point production from either one of these teams. And New England, I think, definitely has a defensive advantage. But it'll be interesting to see how this plays out. And listen, there might be more Super Bowl replays with touchdowns in them than actual touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I bet on television you'll see more replays of touchdowns from games past than you will games present.
Right.
Yeah, I would agree. I would agree with that. I would definitely agree with that. My friend, I wish you and yours a very, very happy holiday and happy Thanksgiving. And I know Maureen and I are very grateful that you take the time to visit with us every week. And I hope the fans are as well, because you bring a world of NFL football knowledge to us. And we like to share as much as we can. So thank you for that.
Well, thank you, sir. Thank you, my friend. God bless you and your family and everybody out there who takes the time to listen and so on. And I've used this line for 20-something years, so I'll use it again. If you're a gambling person, take me and the turkey and bet the over.
And bet the over. Yes, sir. Have a good one tomorrow, and I'll talk to you again in the next week.
You got it.
Thank you, Russell. Russell S. Baxter. I don't know if I ever really knew what the S stood for. I have to think about that for a second. He probably told me before. Scott, maybe? I don't remember.
Stuffing?
Now, why didn't I think of that? That's too obvious, right? Good one. Give yourself a drum riff on that one. Okay, all right. I think that was worthy. That was definitely worthy. All right. You can find him on Twitter, of course, as you know, at Bax, B-A-X, Football Guru. ProFootballGuru.com is his own personal website, and he writes for full press coverage mostly, and a lot of things on the fan-sided network of sites that cover the National Football League, and he's just remarkable sometimes. Our thanks to Nicole Yang from the Boston Globe. Our thanks to Matthew Sitek from Giants.com. Our thanks to you as well for, and Russell, of course. And thanks to you for taking some time here on Thanksgiving Eve to spend a little time with us. And if you're listening to this on the podcast, well, I appreciate you more than you possibly know. Maureen, happy Thanksgiving to you and your family, and your kids especially, all right? I'm sure it'll be a great day. Save me a slice if you think about it, of that lasagna. He's like, hell no. I don't
Thinking
blame
I'll
you.
give it to you at PC on Friday.
Yeah, you can. We got a basketball game on Friday. That's right. I didn't even think about that. That's right. Okay, same patch time, same patch channel next week. We'll talk about it. We'll get through the weekend and see where we stand, and hopefully, maybe, well, we'll figure it all out somewhere. Happy Thanksgiving, everyone. Be blessed.
Thank you for downloading this podcast. Subscribe on Apple, Google Play, and everywhere else you listen. Like the show? Please rate and review us. Listener comments and ratings help keep us high in the podcast rankings so new listeners can find us. Be sure to check Patriots.com for more news and more podcasts.